Shit. What's poppin', fam? Um, so aside from, how can I say this? Aside from the whole facade of, being the face of everything that I have created or whatever, or am in the process of creating, right? It's literally, you don't, you really don't think half the time you're doing something, you feel like there's an explanation or a method to the madness. So I think honestly, like, it's been what now? 5 years? Like 5 years and over like 20 different releases. Close to 20 actually, now that I think about it. Like I wanna I wanna go ahead and explain it. Because I realized, like, over an extended period of time, did I realize my work ethic was a little out there type shit. And I definitely along the line did not have a plan, I should say. There was definitely that. And I think that's honestly the most prominent thing about it all, is that I didn't come with a plan about any of this. But at the same given, I just was like, okay, I'm gonna do it, but how? You know what I'm saying? Like, because when I first started, like, to actually take this shit's like, because I've been very open about this for years now, and I did not take this music shit seriously for the longest. Like, I didn't expect to gain a following. I didn't expect to, like, really achieve anything out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I won't say I was like internally negligent about the whole thing, but I really was just like, fuck it. Like, it's not for me. That's how I looked at it. That's how I always looked at it. And I feel like in the mindset that I was in at the time, it felt like I was bringing more to the table, but at the same time I wasn't. So for starters, right? Um, First project was the Rhymes and Beats mixtape, which in its own, I would say it's my debut. I address it as my debut. I describe it as my debut, but I wouldn't necessarily call it that. Like, there's a few people that when I had people in my circle or whatever that would say, "Bro, that's not a debut, because it's like you only you not rapping or nothing like that." You know what I'm saying? Like, and I really, like, I feel like now there's a part of me that wanted to start rapping, but I guess I shrugged it off long term because I always thought, like, there was always this voice in the back of my head that told me I can't rap, I can't do it, or I shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, and initially that was the idea, because I know for a fact, like, I'm not trying to be like every other nigga in the industry that's like, oh, you got a song with such and such, and but you got another song with such and such don't like. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's, like, from learning within the industry, and especially from a young age at that, it literally, it didn't come about it like that. And respect to everybody that's ever, you know, pro- like, produced their craft or whatever, but this shit started for me at a young age. You know what I'm saying? Like, this shit started around the age of like 13. Like this was a gamble for real, for real. Like back in seventh grade, and I've said that I've hinted towards this many times, and I might as well go ahead and address it now. I was about I was actually 12 because my birthday is in November, so I hadn't even turned 13 yet. So I was in lunch. Everybody was chit chatting, all my little friends or whatever have you. Because young nigga had a motherfucking nickname for himself, and Chipmunk was one of them. So everybody, oh, it's Alvin from the Chipmunks. Woo woo woo, kid shit. So at some point, did the school talent show actually come up? Like it came up like the school talent show was in May of that year, and this was around like I think 2008. Actually, it was like 2008, and I remember for a fact like it was the first time like I had started listening and I had actually started like paying attention to music or whatever, but like because I always grew up around it. Like I always had my grandfather listening to soul music and blues and shit like that, and then my mother got me hip to like the '90s rappers or whatever, like Easy, Snoop Dogg. I honestly like I was more shifted towards West Coast rappers back in that point. Like I remember getting hip Easy Easy E, Tupac, and Snoop Dogg before I hit 12, and I think I started getting hip to like Biggie, DMX, the Outkast and shit like that. I started to get hip to them like around like 14 to 15. So I decided like, everybody's saying like I can't do it, you know what I'm saying? I figure why not? So real recognize real. For those of you who remember my former friend and collaborator Dicey, he was actually the producer of my first song. And before his suicide, um he was always like a real friend to me. Like he always encouraged me to do certain things that I was never really comfortable with, but like not in a sense of like he would encourage me to fuck with motherfuckers or go pick a fight or anything like that. It wasn't that, but he had encouraged me, and at the time it was like, nah, I'm a lose, like I'm gonna make a fool of myself or whatever have you. So he encouraged me to do the remix of Apologize, which you guys heard on the first tape. And again, like this shit's a banger. It was a banger for the longest. It was my only song at the time. I wasn't at that level of getting radio play or anything like that. At least I tried, but what came next was a little bit more of a what the fuck type shit is this, like, and what happens next, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I remember it was around like early 2009, like right before I went, right before the eighth grade, because I was put in juvie. Okay, so I performed the song at a talent show, won the talent show, and I ended up going to juvie for some bullshit I did. So from like it was May 20th of 2008 till about I want to say like March of 2009. They sent me to juvie, the JDC over in Alexandria or whatever, and my mother would always come to visit me or whatever, but at that point it was my mother was I won't say my mother really was starting to give up on me, but like that's when I started to really take shit seriously, you know what I'm saying? Like I was in the streets again. I wasn't like everybody, like I started to really look at motherfuckers differently. Still a kid, but I started to see people differently for what they really were. And that's just how I saw them from that point forward. But anyway, so I got out of JDC and my mother got a phone call. She had told me it was some representatives um for Timberland that wanted to meet me. They wanted to speak with me personally or whatever. Woo. Now, the biggest thing about it all is that I had I had listened to Timberland when he did the one when he obviously when he worked with One Republic doing Apologize. So I did that, and that's what I ended up remixing for my first song. So we went from Alexandria to Virginia Beach, my mother, my sister, and I, and we walked in the studio down. I can't remember, but it was near one of his one of the old houses he used to have back down there. And walked in the studio. My mother had me. I was next to my mother, nervous as shit, for real, for real. And he talked to me for a little bit, and he was like, "It's good to meet you," this, that, and the third. So really, what it is that the whole conversation, like, I had a deal on the table right then and there. But at the time, I was nothing short of 13. I was nothing short of that. So I wasn't familiar with the industry at that point at all. I wasn't familiar with, royalty checks, lawyer fees, any of this shit that's prominent now, for real, for real. So he basically explained to me, like, you know, I fuck with you. You bossed up. Like, a young black man with talent is something that's hard to come by, or whatever. It's not too many people that had this gift, and it it didn't really hit me until we went home. But my mother explained to me that it wasn't a good idea to do it. Obviously, at that point, I was listening to my mother still, but you know, coming out of the time period where people still, I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know what was right and what was wrong at that point still. So that's pretty much how it really started. And taking the encouragement from Timberland himself, like, I started to really promote myself out. Like, when I started to really work on music, like, it's a few songs, like, I actually have some of these songs in my old laptop still, that, from the Snow and Summer project that I worked on before high school. And obviously, because I had them backed up, I was able to find them again. But the project had about like 25 songs on it that I only backed up maybe 10 of. I was beat on and robbed for it, and when it turned out to be somebody I knew, it was just like, that shit set me back, right back where I was. So I pretty much just, like, say fuck the whole thing, like. And then I started to take video games seriously. So from around 2009 to 11, I wasn't doing anything. Like, I mean, I was recording and shit, but I never really released anything. I was sad. My mother wasn't really any help at that point. So, and then obviously I started to get around as I got older, around like 16, 17. I'm starting to get around motherfuckers that's like popping. And like, when I started to see that, it was, because, to be real, like, I had moved to Chicago, right, around like September of 2010, and I think I came back from Chicago around like, yeah, around like December, around the first week of December of 2011. I was already aware of what was going on out there, like, the streets, the gangs, know, like, my uncle out there always told me to know my road signs before I cross paths with people, and I was around the pre Chief Keef era, around the whole 75th and Ada area. So it's like, I didn't I didn't really think of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I started to see what they was really doing. Like, these niggas is like, they talking about they talking about they smoking somebody or whatever have you. I mean, obviously I had to learn the lingo, so like, I don't end up saying it type shit. because even if you with the shit or you're not, like going to places like, for me, Baltimore, you got to learn how to say certain shit. Or you go to Chicago and you gotta learn to say certain shit and say and what not certain shit to say. You know, so being around the post Chief Keef era, I had met. I think I'd only met Lil JoJo maybe twice. To be honest with you, I didn't really have nothing to say about him, for real. For real, like I was casual with the shit. Like me and him, like we was never friends, but like if I see him around St. Lawrence or whatever, like I walk past him or some shit like that. Like I remember walking with my cousin at that point. Like we was walking down 69th actually. We just went to the corner store to get some backwoods or whatever. So we was rolling, prepping or whatever, and JoJo had walked past and he asked us for a backwood. So for real, like the Bo Deal era, I was around that because he used to be around EBT and them. You know, obviously because from me, like I started to see shit be taken seriously after the death of Tuka. And when Chief Keef had mentioned him, I was like, my uncle told me like that's gonna start some shit. And that's when like he really got me hip to practically everything. Because for real, niggas wasn't playing about that. Like niggas is not playing about that shit now. But it's like we talking like mid 2011, you know? And it's like it's 2022 now. Like this shit been going on for 12 years, bro. Like this shit been going on for over 10 years. I can't say that I made friends off 75th and Ada. Can I say I go back? Probably. If my uncle is like, last I spoke with him, I spoke with him before the pandemic, and that's the last I talked to him. I don't know if he's even still there for real. But overall, like, I pretty much had just said fuck the music thing for the longest. Like 2014, like I started my first YouTube channel. I was really just playing video games, real shit. I was not focused on making music. I was not focused on nothing else. And Dicey, I remember he came up to my grandmother's house when I was staying at the time out in Virginia. The man hit me. He hit my line. Said you need to come back. He's like, I want you to do more. He was like, I know you fucked up because your man's robbed you and took your shit from you and all that, but you got to do better. So, like, for real, you don't gotta be a street nigga to understand this. But me, I grew up there. I grew up there in the streets, but it's like niggas is not gang for real. You know, I never was. I never said I was. You know what I'm saying? Like I was there. I was the guy that's cool with all the gangsters. You know what I'm saying? Like you get more love in the hood by not trying to be a hood nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like if you come around motherfuckers that's out there listening to trap music and some other shit, yeah, that's you'll get respect by just being cool. You know what I'm saying? Like just be you. It's nothing like that's all I was taught. But again, so I started that shit and 2017 I started working again. So like for real, my work ethic really for self description purposes, like I'm always doing something. Like right now on my channel, you can really see like I have releases planned between now and the end of September. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how few fucks I give because like everything I have is on a schedule now. Like I could totally forget that I had something on YouTube that I didn't publish, right? And that should have come out. So it's literally like trying to balance what I was doing versus trying to create something for myself to fall back on. I'm gonna say it like this. It's not my dream to be it's not my dream to be a famous producer. It's not. Okay? And my dream is to make motherfuckers happy. You know? Do for motherfuckers that wouldn't do for me. You know, I'm proud of what I have. And I'm proud to have all the people that I do have in my life, regardless of the good and the bad. Like, I'm proud of that. And I wasn't at first. And it didn't start to hit me until I got older that, you know, the people that I threw away really felt some type of way about that shit. And now it's being brought back to me. You know what I'm saying? Like it's being brought back because X don't give a fuck. And because X didn't give a fuck, everybody doesn't give a fuck about X. And now, when I think about it, like 7, 8 releases into this shit, like 3 projects in 2017. Yeah, it was actually it was it was 3 projects in 2017. You know, it was 3 projects in 2017, 2 projects in 2018, 1 in 2019, 2 in 2020, and then 1 in 2021. And that, for me, like I said, that's enough. Like, my goal is to start a studio for myself. Like, to give a community a place to be normal. You know what I'm saying? Like I have my rules with it. I have my demographic. Like, I have my team with me about that. Like, if I'm working with another artist or whatever have you, you guys got to understand, like, what we do here is professional. Like, don't come in here dissing dead niggas saying I'm smoking this guy, I'm smoking that guy. You can leave that shit outside. Like, we come here for the craft, not to bring the streets in there and a motherfucker, like, you know, we're not coming in here for that. That's not what we're here for. Like, what we're here for is to make music. Like, I understand, like, that'll piss some people off, but I'm like, to create a better era of hip hop, we have to understand, we have to be able to talk our shit without having to talk shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's really it. Because from 2008, I was good. Got a cosign. 2009 to 11, I wasn't doing shit. 2012 and 13, I wasn't doing shit. 2014, I started to do better. And 2017, I started to really do better. And now it's 2022. And now I'm at that point where I want to continue mine and do for me. So my advice to y'all is literally, if there's some things that you feel you're not comfortable with or you feel lost about that shit, learn from it. You know, focus on it. Focus on what you did wrong or how can you make this shit better. Because I did, and I'm still making up for my problems, to be honest with you. And that, I can't really say much else. I'm doing better because I was able to focus and do for myself instead of sitting in here wallowing in my self-pity. You get what I'm saying? So I hope y'all understand that, and I hope you guys hear what I'm telling you versus it going in one ear and out the other. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want y'all to understand me. I want y'all to feel where I'm coming from because I want y'all to support not just the music, but support me as a person. Because it behind the music, you're not gonna see this type of shit right here. You're not. So, you know, get at me.